And let me say this, Mars Hill, the greatest threat to our health and well-being as a church is not out there, it's in here. It's not the strangers, but the family members. Sometimes it is presented that the greatest threat to the health, well-being, forward progress of the Church of Jesus Christ, including local churches like ours, is out there. It's the politicians, it's whatever it is. It's the liberals, it's the conservatives, it's the Democrats, it's the Republicans, it's the Syrians, it's the Iranians, it's the terrorists, it's the whatever it is. And certainly people and things surrounding us in the world do affect, impinge upon our freedoms and our joys and our life. But the greatest threat to our unity, our health, and our progress is us. It's us. Because what a church is, it's a series of relationships between our locations and our services and our people and our community groups and our redemption groups and our elders and our deacons and our members and our team leads. There are all of these relationships, and every single one of them is a potential fault line where people don't love one another. And if they don't love one another, then we have an earthquake, and the ground becomes unstable, and everyone becomes distracted. And all of a sudden, panic starts to set in. And it can happen anywhere. It means that if you're in a community group, if two people in your community group choose not to love one another, we could have a real problem, a crisis that actually involves the whole family, perchance, based around that conflicted, unresolved relationship. This is where you get church splits, church fights. This is where there's arguing and acrimony and hostility and escalation. And here's what I have seen in now 16 years of ministry at Mars Hill since core group phase. Satan loves it when Christians don't love one another. And he empowers bitter believers. Man, if there's an opportunity for separation, division, acrimony, infighting, conflict, hostility, division, he absolutely involves himself. He likes to magnify minor problems. He likes to escalate minor conflicts. He wants what otherwise could be a reconciled relationship to end up in a war. And you and I are all vulnerable because we're part of Mars Hill Church. And if you're new, welcome. We love you. We're glad to have you. And if you're a non-Christian, we love you. We're glad to have you. But there's no way that we think that the problems that we have are primarily going to be caused by you. We acknowledge and accept that the primary problems in the church are always caused by the Christians who call the church home but don't love one another. It's very important that we're not just a big church, but we're a church that's also big on love. And God's doing something really unique in Mars Hill Church. There's a magazine coming out with their annual list of the biggest, fastest growing, most influential churches in America. I've been told that out of the 8 categories, we're top 10 in 6 of them. What God is doing in our church is loving his church. Jesus loves this church. And what he's doing is very unusual as we grow and expand and people get saved. And non-Christians are watching and other Christians are watching. And our sustained health is really contingent on one simple thing: love one another. It really comes down to that. The greatest division among the disciples was one of them, named Judas Iscariot. Paul, in his farewell address to the Ephesian elders in Acts chapter 20, says, "Men will arise from your own number, distort the truth, and lead many astray." The biggest problem for the church is always in the church. And it's people who are not loving one another, but they're fighting with one another or using one another. And so John starts with this simple presumption and assumption. It's a good thing to love one another, right? And the answer is yes.